Good morning, everybody. Well, it may be evening where you are. I don't know. I'm Amelia,
I'm Tom.
and we are actually coming to you now today in 2025. Um, we're glad to see you. It's Monday with Jesus, and the story today is from the Gospel of John. Are we in the second chapter, Tom?
Yep.
Okay, second chapter. We've had a lot of problems this morning with our bank. So we're a little frazzled, but we're going to try our best. Been a while since we've done a video, and we're glad to be doing it again. All right. So here's the story. On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Well, Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Oh, Mother, what has that got to do with you or me? My hour has not yet come." And his mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now, there were 6 stone water jars standing there for the Jewish rites of purification. And each one of them held 20 to 30 gallons. So Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. Then Jesus said, "Now draw some of the water and take it to the chief steward." And so they took it. Well, when the chief steward tasted the water that had been turned into wine and didn't know where it came from, though the servants who'd drawn it knew, he called for the bridegroom and said, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and then the inferior wine when the guests are all drunk. But you have saved the good wine until now." Jesus did this, the first of his signs, in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed.
Right.
Okay, so that's the story for today. And I have some questions about this story. Um, so first of all, I mean, the story starts right off the bat with something that I would ask a question about. The third day. What's the third day referencing?
It's places the story in the context of the earlier story of the call of the disciples and Nathanael's response to Jesus and his going crazy when Jesus said, "I saw you under the fig tree." Uh, so the third day is also a symbolic day. It's a kind of indication of what is to come, uh, of Jesus being raised on the third day. It's kind of a little clue, as, as there is also with his mother in the story that follows.
Oh, you mean when he says, "My hour has not yet come"?
Yes,
Okay. So
yeah,
that we'll go ahead. That's referencing.
that's referencing the hour has come, which will happen, prior to the trial and crucifixion. So it's a kind of anticipation of what is to follow. But at this point, for the listeners, I don't know what it refers to.
Okay. But Jesus does apparently. I mean, he has some sense of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, all right. So this story takes place in Cana of Galilee. So you want to tell us a little bit more about Cana?
Well, it was north of if we're to, infer things, uh, the town of Cana was about 10 miles north of Nazareth. So it was in the same area as uh, Jesus' ministry in Galilee. And so it's um, it locates it in near his hometown.
Right. And that's probably why, both, I don't know. So everybody's there. This mother's there, Jesus is there, the disciples are there. Uh,
Right.
and then you get this interesting conversation between his mother, who's never named as Mary, right? I mean,
No, nope. It's
right.
just the mother.
Mother and Jesus. And it's a little bit of a puzzling conversation. I mean, he calls her woman. I know when I taught this story in a church last, I guess the end of August, people did not like him calling her a woman. But I think maybe it has a different meaning now than it did back then. Or you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on there?
Well, uh, it is an indication of a special relationship. Uh, I think there's a sense in which this early part of the story is a an invitation to smile. Uh, and so this uh, this response to Jesus, uh, woman, what is this between you and me? Uh, and so it's uh, it's an invitation to see this relationship that Jesus has. It's not unlike the kind of confrontational way that Jesus has with the Nathaniel in the earlier story that precedes this. Um, so, uh, but I think it's to be taken lightly rather than that it's some kind of theological pronouncement or something.
Put down of her.
And it's not a put down.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
it really is kind of, I think it's kind of funny because, he says, what's this got to do, with us? Um, and my hour's not yet come. It's kind of foreboding. And then she immediately turns to the servants and says, do whatever he tells you to do. Like she knows he's going to do something.
right,
Yeah,
right.
kind of funny.
Yeah,
Yeah. So then you back off. You get the narrator explaining that there are these stone jars there for the
right.
Jewish. Yeah. And what
Rites
were
of
the Jewish
purification.
rites of purification?
Well, they were the ways of dealing with uncleanness, nocturnal emission, menstrual blood, uh, whatever is required uh, to deal with uncleanness. You make a bath, bathe, you're clean. Uh, an interesting thing about these jars is that names that they are stone jars rather than clay jars. That probably is a reference to the fact that the stone jars could be replaced and reused, uh, whereas clay jars would have to be replaced with new jars because of restrictions in relation to the kind of material that is used for the rites of purification, and that the water would be pure, clean, when it came from stone jars.
We get a lot of detail about. I mean, there's six of them and what they're used for, and that they're big. They hold 20 to 30.
20 to 30 gallons, that's 120 to 160 gallons of water. That would have taken, not just an insignificant amount of time just to bring that amount of water and pour it uh, into the jars.
Would they
So,
have used these also for all these the guests that come to the wedding? I mean, just like to wash their hands and that kind of stuff. I mean,
no, no, I don't think
no,
so.
not so much.
No.
Okay. All right, more for bathing. Um, what was I? Oh, what was a big deal about running out of wine? I mean, I can sort of understand, but it seems to be. pretty like I'm
Oh, it
not
was a
social.
disaster.
Oh,
Yeah. It would have been a disaster for wine to run out during the celebration of the wedding. It was the major occasion of joy in the whole of the life of a town like Cana. And so uh, for wine to run out would have basically ended the party. And so it was also an indication that the uh, chief steward and the people who were responsible for planning the reception after the wedding had not done a good job of planning, but had not acquired enough wine to um, provide for the celebration.
did the other gospels have this story, or is
Nope,
it it's unique to John?
it's unique to John.
Yeah.
Uh, it has allusions to the stories of Elijah and Elisha, providing uh, oil for the woman, who came to him. Uh, so, Elijah and the woman of Zarephath and Elisha, they both do uh, magical, uh, miraculous fillings of jars of oil in those cases rather than wine. But it's in the prophetic tradition of signs of divine intervention.
Okay, well, that was something else I was going to ask about at the very end of this story. You get this reference to signs. What is the significance of that? And also glory. Those feel like
Yeah.
kind of loaded words, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the sign is something that points beyond itself to a broader significance.
Mhm.
So in this case, it's a clear sign of Jesus' distinctive character and of his being uh, uniquely related to God. Uh, and there's no development of the theology of his being the Son of God at this point in the story, but it's an early clue that uh, that he's a significant figure.
More than just a prophet, perhaps.
Right.
Yeah. And what about glory? What does that make us think about?
Well, it points again to Jesus' uh, divine connection. So the glory is the glory of the Father that is reflected in then Jesus' uh, actions, in his style, uh, in his good humor. Uh, what this story does is to place Jesus as someone who knew how to have a good time and who was happy. And so this story needs to be told in that spirit, in the spirit of joy and celebration of of a wedding. So it on the one hand uh, presents Jesus as somebody who was a very appealing character, who had a great sense of humor, but also to one who was in some unique way related to God, uh, and was in some way divine.
Anything else you want to add about this story before we sign off?
Oh, well, this follows the story of Jesus calling uh, the disciples and Nathaniel, uh, which ends with, uh, "Whoa, look at this. Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You're the Son of you're the Messiah." And so uh, this is the storyteller saying, "Look at this. This divine one who has, opened all this wine." I mean, so it's a celebration
Mhm.
story, and sets then the stories that are to follow in the context of Jesus being an incredibly attractive character. Uh, I know, and wanting then to hear more of his stories.
It brings joy to the party.
Right.
Yeah, right. Great. Okay, well,
Yep.
thank you, Tom. Thanks for watching, everybody. And
Yeah.
have a good week. Have a joyful week.
Right.
We need that in this, well, where we are in Ohio is it's pretty cold outside. If the sun is shining, it's beautiful, but yeah, we're in the dead of winter here, that's for sure. So joy is always appropriate every time of year, though. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Celebrate.